Hey everybody, thank you so much for your patience in waiting for us to return to the main feed. We are officially back. We've got tons of new episodes coming up for you in the new format. But if you've been jonesing to hear us talk about any cartoon related stuff over on our Patreon, Cartoons That Curse After Dark, we've been talking about tons of movies. We've talked about tons of franchises, popular ones people like. Tariq, which ones have we been talking about?
Shrek, Toy Story, Paddington, Ted, Kung Fu Panda. The list goes on and on.
Gumby 1 even. And
yeah.
look, some of our best stuff is on the Patreon. It's our worst kept secret or best kept secret. It's a well kept secret. You guys should go check out our stuff over there. It's really great. Patreon.com/cartoons that curse. If you want a little bit of extra stuff, we've got like 35 episodes over there. Go check it out and cue the theme song.
Word.
I've been watching them for years, it's always been something that fit with all the animated characters that's doing their own bits. With a fry who's in the future and a family guy that sucks. With a father from a Hello Burger family runs a month. The show inspires is the same guy except he totally say and diverse.
Let's watch cartoons that curse.
Yeah, that's bananas.
That's rough.
What the is up, everybody? Welcome to Cartoons That Curse. My name is Johnny. I'm here with my co-host Tariq, and today we're here with our guest LS Mark, who you might know from his very popular YouTube channel, from his giant adult animation ranking videos, and his podcast Meeting Halfway. Mark, thanks for coming on. How you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Right. Yeah,
how are you, Tariq? This is funny. We're like this. We're slightly new to the guest format, so I roll through the intro. Normally I ask how Tariq is.
Right.
Have not even touched base with Tariq yet.
It was cool though because this time I didn't have to come up with something stupid to say.
Right. Yeah. Well, then I put you on the spot immediately afterwards. So. Yeah.
I'm never prepared.
Great. We're excited to have you on, man. We're very excited. All right, I think we're gonna start this with just like a really basic question for you. What are you watching right now? You watching it doesn't even have to be adult animation related. What are you watching?
Right now I'm watching. It's gonna be a weird answer. I'm watching Grey's Anatomy.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a long show. Is that still on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's gone on so long. 20 seasons, and it's gone on so long that the main character is not even in it anymore.
Of course.
Nice.
And that always happens with those medical dramas. Like I haven't watched all of it, but I know ER was the same way, where like by the last season, none of the characters from the original run were in the show anymore. That's how deep into it are you?
Season 11. Because Veronica started watching it, and I kind of joined in at like season 4. Like after when the show starts getting bad is when I joined in. So I'm just kind of like getting into the absurdity of it is all that's keeping me along for the ride.
Yeah.
I know that I'm looking forward to the COVID season coming up.
Oh, gross.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's so funny. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've been chipping away at that shit, man. 11. Damn.
Yeah, so you've watched 7 seasons of it already. Those shows, it is fun to watch those long running kind of procedural shows and see how they change and evolve. They're still the most popular things on television. Like there's a reason they last so long.
I saw yesterday Grey's Anatomy was the 4th most watched show of all 2023. Like just of
insane.
All time.
Yeah. Was number 1 Family Guy?
Yeah, probably.
was up there? Or was that just on Hulu?
I think number 1 was like Bluey or something. I don't know.
Oh, nice. Look, hey. We're not going to hate on Bluey here.
No, that was a knee jerk.
We don't want the Bluey stands coming at us.
That was knee jerk. I'm sorry, Bluey people. I didn't mean to do that.
That's so funny. Bluey's the show that I like. My friends who are parents will be like, "You should watch Bluey," and I'm like, "I think I'm gonna wait. Oh, I'll wait till maybe I have kids."
I just did a stream last night, and somebody was like saying that I should watch Bluey, and I don't know. I put Bluey on for my dog sometime when we leave. He likes Bluey.
Really? Tony's a Bluey fan.
Tony likes Bluey. I put on. To be honest, he doesn't really get he gets Pickle and Peanut and like fish hooks. I put on like weird shit for the dog when I leave.
Man, that's why your dog is like, that's why your dog's always chewing up stuff. You put on
That's
weird
true.
shows.
He's fed up. He's fed up.
Oh man. Okay, so Mark, so obviously our show is mostly focused on adult animation. We've covered a bunch of shows in our previous format. You've obviously talked about adult animation a lot on your channel with those with the massive ranking videos, which are just like an insane undertaking. they're so cool that you can even pull those off so well. But obviously you've covered Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, which are all right up our alley.
Yeah.
Are those like your three top in the adult animation world? Do you have other favorite adult animation shows that you haven't talked about as much?
There are like other adult animated shows that I like. Other than Grey's Anatomy, the only other thing I was watching recently was, I think the other day I marathon through again Terror Along the Dotted Line and its sequel series.
Nice.
But those are like, it's like 12 episodes. It's like nothing.
For sure.
Yeah, there are shows like American Dad or like Cleveland Show that when they were like coming out, I would only ever watch them because it's like, oh, it's before Family Guy. But really, it was like Simpsons would always air at 6. It would be on until 8. Then they'd air Family Guy until 9. And then at 9, they'd put on South Park. So I just like switch between the channels and do that every day for like years.
What a lineup. Yeah, it's so funny how many things I watched as a kid just because they were surrounding The Simpsons. There was when I was younger, there was always like after the news, it was Simpsons and then Frasier and then another Simpsons. And I was like, I watched so many episodes of Frasier because it was between the two Simpsons episodes. I've never watched Terror Along the Dotted Line, but I've been recommended it a bunch. I really need to check that out. You recommend it, obviously?
It's good. Yeah, it's really short too. You'll get through it in like a couple hours. So
nice.
No harm in it.
That's easy. Love a show like that.
Word.
Cool. So, Tariq, did you want to? I know you wanted to ask about this. We're curious about your process in doing the big ranking videos. Tariq, however you want to ask that question.
Yeah, I wanted to know like not only the process, because it would. I know some people that like, okay, I can't write the video until I see everything, but there's no way you do that at this point, right? Yeah, okay.
I treat it much more like you're not coming here for like an actual analytical review of this entire show. You're coming to watch the process of me marathon everything and give my first impressions as I go along.
Right, and that's totally conveyed in your thumbnails too, with like your character just exhausted. Yeah,
that's like some people assume it's like, all right, I post the regular show, and people are like, wow, he hits regular show based off this thumbnail. It's like, no, that was just me like having to spend my Christmas trip to Ireland marathoning regular show every night.
Right.
I think that's a smart way to approach it. Yeah, it's not that you're trying to review every episode. It's people are coming to see you do this.
Yeah, it's always similar to the low by the end where it gets to a point where every season gets covered a little bit faster, I feel like, because I'm just getting more and more fed up with it, which I feel is a bit unfair towards like the last batch of episodes. But again, it's more of a thing where it's just I do it in a horrible way that really burns me out every time I do it, where I never want to do it again. Where for the Simpsons one, I think I tried doing it in a month, and that was for
fuck.
That's too many. That's too many episodes for 1 month.
But that's because you cut this out if you want to, but this is because all that Cosmodor stuff was going on around that time, and I remember in the cartoon server, I was like, I think he's going to come back with a ranking every Simpsons video, because it was just such a hunch of like, he'd always talk to me about wanting to do a ranking every Simpsons video and how that would be like his magnum opus. And I was like, okay, I have a month to get this out before him.
I know. I remember that all going down, and I think that's such a great motivation, and I think just to spite him, and then also just the fact that it became such a like sensation and like now you've done 5 of them or whatever. It's cool.
Everyone is like different, where The Simpsons was a month, Family Guy was like 4 months, I think, and I was like traveling between Ireland, Canada, America, like all over the place while working on it, which was just not fun at all. I got in trouble with a lot of Airbnb like landlords messaging me saying that someone's torrenting Family Guy on their internet.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's funny.
And then regular show is the worst because I was getting ready for my trip to Ireland for Christmas, which I haven't been to Ireland in like 2 years. I was kind of stuck here waiting on visa shit. And so I was like, okay, there's a week before I leave for Ireland. Regular show's only 250 episodes. I'm pretty sure I can marathon, write, review, and edit the whole video by myself in 1 week. And that turned into, I think, a month and a half of doing it. Yeah.
I'm doing a kind of similarly structured like process for a video right now. It'll be, I guess by the time we release this episode, it'll already be out, so people have seen it. But I'm covering every movie ever nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars.
Yeah.
So that's like, I started this last year. And I didn't give myself enough time, and B, I just started watching movies and taking notes and not writing and like just taking notes. And by the time I sat down to write, I was like, there are 40 movies in my brain right now, and I don't know how to write about like the earliest one I watched. It's like a hard thing. You have to like make sure you're doing it while you go.
That's why I could never. I did that with my my Disney movie ranking video, and I did it the same way where I watched like 20 in a row taking notes, and I came back to it, and I had to rewatch like all the early ones because I couldn't remember what happened. Yeah, no, not fun.
Yeah,
how was on like Fairly Odd, considering that you're like familiar with it, you grew up with it.
Fairly Odd Parents was the easiest like one by far because I didn't have any trips planned. I wasn't going anywhere. It was just like me sitting in my living room all day, like watching, writing, and recording, just doing that process. And it's only 10 seasons, like it's and the first couple are pretty short. And yeah, I knew a lot of the episodes already, but I still wanted to make sure I at least like watched them one more time because it's 11 minutes, it's not a big deal. But watching through that series was really interesting because it reminded me of how when you're watching it in order, they really did make an effort to have everything like connect in a way, but not really, like where there was like subtle world building going on that I couldn't have appreciated as a kid, Yeah.
It was fun. Like around the time you did that, I was helping Nick Tendo. I was helping him edit his Fairly Odd retrospect 3-part thing. And like, so I like kind of was living with the show a little bit around that time. So like, it was like, oh fuck, he watched these episodes I've been staring at for hours too.
Yeah.
Oh man. I guess I'm just also curious on a workflow level. Do you start editing that as soon as you have stuff recorded? Like, are you recording as you go? Are you hiring editors? Like, how many editors does it take? Like,
I have like one consistent editor that I always work with, Simply Dad, unless he can for like every once in a blue moon. But like he did not edit anything of the regular show one, so he could focus on his own channel. And so I had a different person working on it, or who edited half and I edited the other half. But for Simpsons, South Park, Fairly Odd Parents, SpongeBob, it all worked in a way where I would watch through a season, write as I like watch an episode, I'll write about it, go on to the next one. And then once I finish a season, I'll record it, send it off to him. And while he's editing that, I am working on season 2. So it's just like like a flow. Which
just constantly
makes it harder. It makes it harder to like make a video that, I don't know, feels more like thought out, like from point A to point B, where there's like a through line. And there's like obviously, if I watched it all, then wrote it, then sent it off to him, I could probably make a video that has more of like a point, I guess, or like a conclusion. It's mostly just like, well, I'm done, But I don't know. I feel like if I were doing that, I just wouldn't enjoy it as much. I just kind of like the process of being able to just watch an episode, give my first impressions, and move on.
Yeah, there's something like exciting about just constantly having stuff written, edited, coming in and out, and just like building something that effectively. Yeah. But I know what you're saying. It's like, it is kind of like so many like video essays you'll find like really find a through line through their videos. And if you're just doing it kind of one step at a time, it's harder to find.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I try to write a video, then I'll be like, okay, let me actually try to find a through line through this, and it's like, oh, I don't care. I'd rather just give my
you don't got it. You don't
and
got
sometimes
it
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like you don't always need one, but people do like it. But
that was something I had to. That was something I had to learn. Like I was like, I can't do this every time. Like,
well, let me ask you then. How did you like learn that? I'm interested.
It was when I had to start making the conscious decision to like make shorter videos. Because at first I would come up with an idea and then I'm like, okay, if I talk about this, I got to talk about this and this and this, and then it just become this like bloated thing. And I'm still kind of like that. There's no reason I talked about Jerome for 40 fucking minutes. But like it's just that like sometimes I just like I gotta mention this, that, whatever. But like when I was like, okay, there's no way I can like do this for a living and constantly make like 40-minute videos and like don't know if they're gonna do well. I gotta do shorter things that take less time. And with that, I had to learn like sometimes it's just cool to do something and be like, I liked this episode. Here's this episode and why you should probably go watch it. And that's it. Like it's cool to do that too. That's how I just made that decision.
Yeah, it can be hard. I think like Mark, to like your credit, your audience seems to eat up anything you put out, which is awesome. Like that's like the dream, right?
I think it's like it's one of those things where I kind of I'm able to recognize that, but I'm still always like, oh fuck, like someday that's gonna stop. So I have to like always have kind of like a backup in my mind where I don't know. Every once in a while, it's kind of like I'll upload like a string of videos that will do like pretty well, and then I'll upload like one that doesn't do as well right away, and I'm like, well, that's it, I'm done, I'm retired.
Yeah, I feel that.
Man, it is so funny how like fickle those feelings of security in this job can be. Like you can truly have like the biggest success, and then like a video doesn't do well, and you're like, well, I guess I'm done. Like I guess it's over for me.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Whenever I was in Ireland working on the regular show video, that was me the whole way. All Christmas, right. I was like, well, I'm gonna go back to LA and I'm gonna like just pack it up and and just quit because my computer that I had in Ireland, I hadn't touched it in 2 years, so it was blue screening constantly. I couldn't edit anything, and it was like, great, this is December, and I can't get a single video out. So I was like, well, I wasted the December month, so I guess I'm just fucked for the rest of the year.
I get that.
That's rough. It is crazy that's like the month where getting the best content out you can is so lucrative, but also it's the biggest travel like family month. It's like
it's the worst. It's the worst.
I've found that I have to strike a pretty good balance of like trying to keep up on new things. Like I'll try to do like new South Park comes out, I got to cover that quick. I'm trying to cover new shows as they come out. Alongside making some of the bigger, longer term like analysis videos that I put out, which those tend to do better longevity wise, but they don't always pop off. So it's hard to just know what's going to work. It's like, yeah.
I find doing like a mix of both is kind of what I want to do for this new year, where it's like, I'll focus on getting like one big video out a month that will take up all my attention. If something new comes out that I just want to make a quick like 10-minute video on, I can just do that in a couple days and then just get back to the other video. Kind of work on that kind of timeline I'm going to see how that works in 2024.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm working on this big video that I'm probably going to put out in March, and we're like doing all these new podcast stuff, but I'm like, all right, Has Been Hotel, got to talk about that. Like, all right, what's hopefully South Park's announced soon. I can make South Park videos next month, and then we can like keep the train rolling while I'm making this big thing. But yeah, it can be hard. Tariq, before we go into the animated into the shows we want to talk about today, do you want to ask about pilot stuff? Because I know you're making your pilot. I know Mark is making a pilot. I just want to listen.
Right. I just was kind of I'm real curious with like I almost like envy the way you're going about it, because you just kind of like, I don't know how you do it, but like nobody knows anything. I don't even know the two characters' names. Like, and I can't withhold information for that long. So I was wondering, like, I know you're kind of like keeping a lot of it like to the chest a little bit, but like, is there anything that you like are willing to say about like the I guess like the tone or like what the kind of show it will be like?
Yeah. It's one of those things where like I have no problem talking about it or like revealing stuff, I guess, but it's one of those things where I don't like the idea of giving it too much like grandiose, like
Sure.
Hype.
I
Yeah.
don't want to up it because I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So me like not sharing any details about it is less about me wanting to keep it all secret, and it's more like I want to wait till this is done before I start being like, here's my new thing, you know. Because yeah, I've never done this before, so it's kind of like
Right.
a big learning experience. So I don't want to really treat it as anything other than a learning experience, you know. Because it's like I started this in like 2020, you know, when I was fucking 18. So it's just been, it was pretty messy for the first couple of years where I got everything developed. I kind of wrote like 4 different like scripts down, and I storyboarded one, got all my animators ready, got all the rigs ready, and we started animating. And right when the first shot was done, I was like, nope, done. Restarting, going over, like
Oh,
just
damn.
scrapping everything and starting from the beginning because I just wasn't.
Wow.
I think I was getting in my own head too much about like this needs to be perfect. This needs to be like
Sure.
good. And then that got me like overthinking like every script I was writing, where there's like fucking like 40 drafts of it, and it's like I record for all the voice actors, and it's like, well, no, I changed this like this one line, or even with this new script, I recorded with all the voice actors, but it was the kind of thing where I couldn't shake the feeling that I wrote this script with the idea of like how can I please everyone, you know? So
Yeah.
I went back and I kept all the boards the same, everything flows the same way, but I just changed all the dialogue to be in a way that I think is funny, less than like what I think people would find funny. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it's like I don't care. Like if people like it, they'll like it. If they don't, they don't. I just kind of wanted to do it for fun, I guess, to see if I could.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah,
man.
I get that.
I mean, well, especially given how young you are, it's so cool how many things you're doing. Like you just, it's,
Right.
yeah.
I know that I'm not going to be able to do this kind of thing forever, you know. So it's like I don't.
Sure.
If I have the ability to do it now, then I might as well. You know, there's
Might
no
as
harm in
well.
it.
So
Yeah.
do you find that like because of what we do, like talking about media and critiquing media, do you find that like has it changed, has you working on this pilot, has it changed like how you approach I guess the essays and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I think at least I believe I've become much more like understanding of the creative process, and how like you can have the best intentions in the world, but that doesn't mean that everything's going to go as smoothly as you want it to. And really
Right.
like how much of a miracle it is to get a show out there that is like really good.
Yeah.
Just where it's like you can write something in a script and it could be like the funniest thing ever to you. You storyboard it and it's really good. Then you animate it and you look at it and it's like, well, it doesn't work, you know? Time
Right.
to reanimate it and like find a way to make this like somehow fit like whatever I thought it started as in the scripting process. That's been my biggest thing, where it's just I'm having more appreciation for when something does go right, and understanding more why something is bad, and not just blaming it on incompetence, you know?
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically the same takeaway I had. Like
Yeah.
I've always kind of been like, you never know what happened behind the scenes, but now it's like, oh, you really never know what happened. Like
Right.
there's so many, like I empathize with like even just like overthinking the script. Like I've even done that where it's like I just think about, because you know, like obviously more you than I, but like people know who we are. So when the cartoons come out, there's gonna be like videos and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I think about like, fuck, is somebody gonna say that this part of the plot makes no sense? How do I like preemptively like get in front of that? Like I found myself doing that a lot, and then I had
Yeah.
to chill off that too.
And it's hard when you're so secretive about it, because it's like you can't show it to as many people as you would maybe want it to get like feedback. And with the script especially, it's kind of like, yeah, I definitely had that thing where it's like, but does this make sense to someone who hasn't like read this 100 times over? And then
Right.
but then even then, I think that comes into its own like level of overthinking, where it's like everything needs to be completely spelled out to the audience, where it's like it doesn't really need to. People like I'm trying to like learn that like people aren't dumb. Like I don't need to like completely spell everything out for them, or if something like is more interpretive or isn't like completely like apparent, then that's fine, you know.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, the right audiences are like that kind of stuff. They like to be able to try and interpret things themselves. And also, you know, you don't want to, I think some shows can sound like they're almost talking down to their audience. They're almost condescending in how much they spell things out.
Yeah. I really wanted to try and make something that was kind of like in its own world and not really. It's kind of like not. I don't want it to come off like an LS Mark cartoon. I want it to be like a cartoon by Mark.
Cool.
Where I want to completely keep it separate from what I'm doing on my channel. I don't want it to really have the same tone. Some of the writings gonna be similar because that's just how I write things, I guess. But I kind of want to keep it separate from my YouTube channel, just as like a different entity, as like a different project I'm doing that isn't related to it, which is obviously it's impossible because it's going to be associated no matter what. And like something I said, if I do something in my cartoon that I said I didn't like 5 years ago, that's like an issue. But I've been working on it so long that at this point I'm just kind of like, whatever, like I don't care. Like,
yeah, I feel that.
It's whatever.
I feel that. So how do you think like this is like kind of like a hard question. It's kind of like a stupid question, but how far do you think you are along in the process for this one?
I want to say like 90% done.
Really?
Wow.
It's all animated. Every bit of animation for it is done.
Wow.
And I think I'm having one of my animators come back and do revisions for certain shots before compositing. Sure. So I think I have a notepad on my desktop always with every scene. I think most scenes are done. There are like 5, I think, that still have to be composited. So it's just a case of getting the animator to revise the shot, then send it off to the composiser, and then that's all done. I think
there's that's a finished cartoon.
50, man. Wow.
I think like 50 shots left to composite. But I still have to do like sound mixing and stuff, which I'm also working on now. I recently called all the voice actors again to do like pickups and stuff, or just like grunts or like extra stuff that I want to like throw in there. And after that, all I have to do is get a composer, and then it's done.
Wow!
Congrats, man. That's so cool.
Shit.
I didn't realize you're that close to the finish.
Me neither.
There's still lots to do, but man, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it should be done by around, I'm gonna say June at the latest.
Amazing.
Just want to give myself some time to sit on it. Yeah, it's almost done.
Right. Yeah,
cool.
That's dope. Everything I've seen, like it looks dope to me. Like I love the designs, the aesthetic. I love the way it's composited. Like it's like this really like vibrant. I guess that's the word I would use. Like way to describe it. Like there's like heavy lighting every which way. Like I don't even think I've seen a cartoon look like that. Like so I think that shit looks dope.
I kind of had like Gumball in my mind, where I like the idea of these kind of like flat characters in like a 3D looking like space.
Right.
So that's kind of the aesthetic I was going for.
Yeah, it's good shit. I can't wait. Wait.
And I barely post anything about it online, but it's always a thing where even when I do like the little bit I show, it's always the next day I wake up and I'm like, why the fuck did I share that? Like it's not done yet. Like
no, I think you guys are both doing it right though. It seems like, because like I know from talking to you about your pilot, Tariq, and then from what you've said today, Mark, you're both making a show that you would want to watch, right? Like you're doing something that's like, you're doing something that because you both have talked about how thinking too much about the audience and whether or not they'll like it, I feel like that is a recipe for just overthinking. And I mean, I was even just listening to a Conan podcast, and he was talking writing advice, and the main thing he said is just make things you want to see. And I do think that is like the best place to start every time.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. Should we talk about these episodes? Should we talk about some cartoons that curse? Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. First we're going to talk about Marge Be Not Proud, Simpsons season 7 was episode 11. I think that's right. What's so funny, Mark, is you requested this episode, and this was the last Simpsons episode I watched. Really? I watched, at Christmas. I was watching some Christmas episodes with my brother and my mom, and this was the last one I watched. But I love this episode. This is one of my favorites. Tariq, I know you're a fan too, right? You like this one?
Yeah. I love this episode. Oh, this is my favorite season of the show. So like,
you're a 7 guy. Nice. 7 is a great.
I'm a 7
season.
guy. What are you? Are you 5? You're a 5
I like
guy?
shifts. I like the Merkin era a lot, but also like I don't know. I've been growing to love the Gene Reese seasons too, 3 and 4. Like
3 and
I don't know,
4.
like
Yeah, those
it's
are good.
I just like it kind of just shifts, depends on my mood, which
I feel
era I
that.
like the best.
Yeah.
Mark, the first thing I want to ask you is why did you choose this episode? Why did you choose Marge Be Not Proud to talk about out of all the adult animated episodes we could talk about?
I definitely remember this being like one of the earliest Simpsons episodes I watched. And if not one of the earliest, it was one of the earliest that left like an impression on me where it was like, oh, that's kind of real. Or even was like a 5-year-old, I was kind of like, oh, I feel that. Because I would watch Simpsons every single day for like 10 years straight. It was like one of the only shows that like me and my dad would watch together. Like he'd come home from work and at 6 o'clock we'd watch Simpsons for like 2 hours straight. And this was always the one that I was really, really excited when it would come on. So this is definitely one of the top ones that I would want to pick to talk about.
Hell yeah. Yeah, this is such a good one because it's so funny. It's like really tightly written, and like there's so many good jokes and callback gags, but it is like very beautiful and real and sincere.
Yeah.
Like I think it's so sincere. That's like I think my favorite descriptor of this episode. But and it even just starts out with one of my favorite gags is the Krusty Christmas special brought to you by ILG, the selling your body's chemicals after you die, and also Little Sweeties Cupcakes, a subsidiary of ILG. It's such a good
I got a good
gag.
laugh out of Video Christmas Card from Tupac Shakur.
Dude, but also this came out before he died. Like,
I know, yeah. So
they're just referencing Tupac.
This is like the cartoon that like ignores hip hop for like most of its run. I always think it's funny when they like sprinkle it in every once in a while.
When I was researching this episode too, I also found that this is a specific episode cited by Raphael Bob Waxberg about partial inspiration for BoJack, like what shows he inspired him to make BoJack Horseman. Yeah, and he just talked about how basically what we were just talking about, how it's funny but also beautiful and sincere and real. And then I like this quote. He said, "One of the best compliments I ever got on BoJack was that the whole season felt like a long, sad episode of The Simpsons," which is pretty spot on. Let's see. Tariq, do you have like, I have like favorite things. Most of my favorite things about this episode are the like heartfelt aspects.
Yeah, for sure.
But what are you guys' favorite things about it? Tariq, what about you?
I wrote down some laughs, some good laughs I got.
Yeah,
there's like a 3-punch, like when Bart sees the commercial. He runs in and he says, "Buy me Bone Storm or go to hell," which is already funny. But then Homer says, "Young man in this house, we use a little word called please." and then Marge says, "Bart, those games cost up to and including $70," which is such a Marge thing to say. It's like 3 lines in a row, but that shit killed me.
And then
like I forgot how top heavy the jokes are in this one. Like
it starts so funny before it gets real.
2/3 are so funny. Yeah.
I think my biggest laugh in that opening is Homer telling him about the toy he wanted, and my parents bought it for me, and it was the happiest day of my life.
And he just fucking leaves.
So good. Yeah, Mark, do you have like a favorite thing about this episode besides it being one of your earliest favorites?
I think something that I always remember when watching it is like when my first experience seeing it, I always kind of go back to that and how kind of like oddly scary like they're able to make it. Like when Bart goes back into the fucking the store and he's like trying to hold the camera. I always feel like they always make me feel a little tense while I watch that, being like, "Oh fuck, it's coming!" You know it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think they really like evokes
that childhood dread.
Yeah, that like fear of like even as a kid, I would always I would do the thing Bart does when he walks into the store where he's like, maybe if I look sad enough, someone will like feel bad and buy it for me. I remember doing that all the fucking time as a kid in stores, standing around for like 20 minutes staring at the game I want.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I think that my favorite thing is just how well it captures that like the scariness of like Bart like fearing going to prison over this, like his dream of being in juvie. I think all that stuff is really, I don't know. It I feel like these early Simpsons episodes always had such a good understanding of what it was like to be a child. You know,
Definitely.
For sure. Yeah.
it's like all the same thought
Yeah.
processes I would go through. Like it's all just like so relatable to me, and I think that that's something they capture really well.
Yeah, and I think to that point, like the lead up and suspense to him getting caught is it's so effective. But like everything
Yeah.
before that moment, he's scared of punishment, right? He's scared of like, oh, I'll go to jail. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble from my parents, this, and this. And then once he gets caught, Marge doesn't yell at him or anything. He's just sad because Marge is just like broken over it. It's not, he didn't even
Right.
get in trouble. Like he's like, he's just sad because he like really deeply disappointed his mother. And I love that turn, that it's not about Bart getting in trouble. It's ultimately about his relationship to his mom and his mom's like expectations and view of him as a kid. Yeah.
I think there's like a lot of like Marge, like Bart taking Marge for granted. Like that whole, like the first act is like establishing like she tucks him in every night and she does this for him, she does that for him, and he's just kind of like, man, whatever, fuck that. He like puts the bucket over his head when she starts quoting Forrest Gump and shit. Like he's like he's fed up with it. But like when she removes all of that, when she removes the love and the tenderness or whatever, like it's noticeable for him. And now it's like all he seems to want. He goes to Milhouse's house and like tries to like do mom stuff with his mom.
Yeah.
Like it's so bad, it's so rough.
Yeah, I love that it's him like realizing that like for the first time that he can do something that will change her view of him in a way, you know, that he can do something so bad that that will stick with her. I think they use the bathroom like rug covered in like mold and grime.
Yes.
Which I didn't remember. That shit is rough. That's so nasty.
It's such a good Lisa line. Yeah, I love especially that him going and talking to Luann Van Houten and saying, "Can I just hang with you while you do mom stuff?" Because that's just a very funny idea. Like, but it's also heartbreaking. Like, it's really sad that he's just like, "Oh, my mom won't do this with me anymore." And so I'm trying to like chase that like, high.
Yeah. And she's like licking she's like putting up the envelopes and he's just like, tell me I'm good. It's like, he's like fucked up. Bart is fucked up.
Yeah, man. Him throwing together the little snowman dad of the family with the dirty car snow.
To say that. It's so sad. It's a great design though. That design is devastating. That little like snow Bart is devastating. It's a good.
I think that is the final shot they hold on, isn't it? Like the panning, like the camera like, zooming out of the house, and you see his little crumpled up snowman.
That's right. Oh, that's right. That's such a good choice. Yeah, this the way this ends is so great too. The way they make you, they're trying to make you think Bart's just going to double down and be like, I'll be a bad kid if you think I'm a bad kid. And then, you know, they're treating him the same way that what you're expecting. You know, you've got Marge and Homer trying to chase him down only to reveal that he's trying to make it up for him. Yeah. Get him, Ma.
Get him, Ma. That's good.
Yeah, it's really sweet. I love
even visually. I think in the ending there's a lot of great choices, like when Marge hangs up, I think the halfway point, she hangs up the photo frame on the wall and it kind of like tilts down, but whenever Bart gives her the photo that she puts up with it, it kind of like balances it all out again, like even stuff like
That's
that.
Right.
And
that's great.
I know it's because of the time it came out, the era it was in, but the way it looks is just so like kind of dark. It really gets that like kind of nighttime, like winter kind of aesthetic done really well, and it adds to the whole atmosphere of everything. But yeah, that's something I definitely wish they'd play around with more, like the colors and the lighting, where it's not so like saturated all the time. I think it really works in this episode.
Yeah, it's true. Have you kept up much since you've done your ranking? Have you kept up much with the latest seasons of The Simpsons?
I did not at all for 4 years until I think a couple 3 months ago. I made a follow-up video being like, "Hey, it's been 4 years."
I think
So
that's
let's,
right. I think I did watch that. Tariq and I have talked a lot about how like there's just been a little bit of it feels like there's been a little bit of shift in the last couple seasons that like there's like it's just a handful in the last few seasons that we really love. Like we really love talking about.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming back to the show after so long was very. I remember ending just like a random episode as well, like Comic Book Guy or something, and just being like, "Oh, it's whatever." But when I came back, I didn't marathon through every episode of season 33 and 4, I think it was. But I watched like a good handful of them, and there were like a lot in there that I find myself liking a lot. Like it was like Bart. It's like Homer and Marge envisioning a world where Bart wasn't their son or something, and them like kind of like learning to love him, or showing that they like would love him anyway, even if they weren't he weren't their kid. I think the current seasons have a lot of like good stuff about them, which is surprising because I wasn't. I think everyone just kind of expected the show to continue in its complacency of just being like, "That's The Simpsons."
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this a lot on the pod too, but it's like it feels like looking at the show and its history and when it was good. It's like it kind of feels very clear why it got stale, and it's because one guy was show running it for 20 years. And they used to shift showrunners every 2 years, and it like really kept the show fresh. And then it's like, sure enough, as soon as they bring in another guy to show run, a little bit of new energy to the show. You got some good episodes, some new classics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so funny.
Sure.
And I think just a little tangent-y, but I think that like it is so funny if you watch a new one. And like, at least for me, I can instantly tell. I'm like, oh, Al Jean did this one. Like, I can tell immediately. I know. Like, just in certain plot choices, I'm like, okay, this isn't new Homer. This is like season 15 Homer. Like I can feel it. I know what's going on here.
And I don't want to hate on Al Jean too much. Like he's a legend. He's made
some for sure.
Great
The critic is so funny.
So, but it is funny.
I got love.
It is funny how quickly you're just like, this is not a Selman. This is a Gene. Although he did do a couple. Like he did that Bleeding Gums Murphy follow up that I liked in 33.
Right.
So let's give him a shot still.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Obviously the big heartbreaking scene in this is after he gets caught. It's him like waiting for Marge to tuck him in, and then she just says goodnight. I feel like that's the one everyone remembers. That's painful.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite aspects is that it's not a thing where she's like mad at him, but she's like just like holding it like it's something so bad that she's just like can't even like express how angry it is. I like that it's instead a thing where she is like reflecting on her own parenting skills, and it's like you feel even worse for her because she's not mad about it. She thinks it's like something she contributed towards, like she thinks she was like mothering him too much, which causes him to act out, which I really liked that her like starting to like not include him in the family stuff, or like treating him like he's older, comes from less of a place of her being like spiteful about what he did and more about her genuinely trying to like finally give him what he wants.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, like was my over mothering what contributed to this? Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah, and I guess when she's talking to Homer, she's like in bed. That's the scene where she's really like reflecting, like what did I do? Like what's going on here? I'm like, man, the joke at the beginning of that scene when Homer's breaking down punishments says no stealing for 3 months. It's a great joke. I also feel like the ending joke, like the final gag, is perfect. I asked the clerk what game all the boys wanted.
Yeah, man.
Lee Carvalho's putting challenge is so funny.
I wrote that down too because that's such like I've always felt like, especially like early on, because she's a little different now, but especially early on, I felt like they really kind of nail just like the out of touch mom, just like really trying her best, like with Marge.
Innocent. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it reminded me. I told this story before, I think, but it reminds me of when I was a kid. I came home from school and my grandma was like, "I brought you this DVD. It's the cartoon that I remember that you used to watch." And I was like, "Oh shit, word!" And I went and picked it up, and it was like the Flash seasons of Johnny Test. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh shit, you thought this was Johnny Bravo. Oh fuck. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of gotta say thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, and then like and
Poor
then like
kid.
it's a funny joke, and then like the capper of Bart just pretending that that's what he wanted is perfect.
Yeah.
Like him
You
just
just gotta you gotta do it.
Yeah,
You gotta do it.
it's so good. What a great episode. This is like a real top tier episode for me.
Yeah.
You know what's so
Word.
funny? This is only the second Simpsons Christmas episode. The first being
It
the
is,
first
yeah,
episode. They did
Right.
no Christmas episodes from seasons 1 to 7. And so like every other, like in the like quote unquote golden era of the first 8 seasons, there's only 2 Christmas episodes and every other one comes afterwards. It's just a weird little piece of Simpsons trivia.
Because is Miracle on
That's a season 9.
Terrace? That's
Miracle on
9.
Evergreen
Yeah, that's
Terrace.
9. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. After that, it's
Yeah,
off
that's
to the
that's the
races at
Scully
that
era.
point.
I like that episode too,
Right.
but it is similar.
That episode's rough.
It gets rough, yeah.
That episode's rough. That's pretty mean.
Cool. You guys got anything else you want to talk about Marge Be Not Proud before we move on to Family Guy?
I feel like we went through everything I had right here.
Hell yeah. Great episode. So the episode of Family Guy you chose is season 2 episode Brian in Love. I'm actually watching through season 2 right now, so this was perfect that you chose this.
I remember you were talking about I think I originally suggested Brian Wallows and Peter Swallows from season 3, but I feel like that's the episode that is like when you want to point to good Family Guy episodes or like what could be considered like one of the best. It's and it's like easy to see why, you know, like it's kind of you know, it no, nothing I could say could equate to you just like going and watching it yourself, you know?
Totally.
Right.
The other funny thing about that episode is I think it's also why I connected with Tariq was he made a video about it. And I think Tariq said it's also what you guys connected over too, was that
it's how I met both of y'all. That episode is how I met both of y'all. Which is so funny because I remember that video doing bad when it came out. But like I got friendships out of it. So it's good.
Yeah, man. I remember that coming out and being like, oh, that was a good episode. I should watch this video. And that's the reason I started talking to you. And it's the reason we jumped on a call. And the reason we started this podcast is because we jumped on a call and just started geeking out about adult animation for like a couple hours. We're like, oh, we should probably record this. That's so funny. Great episode. But you chose Brian in Love, which is another great episode from season 2. So obviously, you were initially thinking, too many people have said too much about Brian Wallows. So what about Brian in Love attracted you to want to talk about it for this?
I think it is like the perfect follow-up to it's weird. Early Family Guy, they always focused on Brian for like their emotional kind of stories. Where season 1, I think, ended on the episode where Brian wants to be kind of respected as a human. And I always liked that he was kind of like the like core of the show in a way. So I find that Brian in Love was like the perfect follow-up to that episode where they kind of expand, like showing you how he is as a person and like how he's kind of like depressed at the fact that he hasn't really achieved anything in his life, and them trying to further explore that and see like what the issue is before like I can't believe it took them like this long to establish like the plot point of Brian liking Lois, because that's something that like used a lot later on.
Right.
Totally.
So
yeah. It is like a great existential episode. It's like full on midlife crisis. Like what's going on? and I like that. I think it's funny and smart for them to have that sort of show itself in the form of just like a very dog thing. Like, oh, the dog's pissing on the rug, which is something I've always liked in this show with how they treat Brian is like, yeah, he's a person and he's a character, but then like it's using the dogisms to bring out the like character I think works really well.
Right. There's a lot of that, like in this episode, I think it's like this episode and early in the run, I think it's like handled a little differently than it is now. Now when they do dog Brian stuff, it's just kind of like silly. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's like he'll be like really serious about something and then he'll just get fascinated with his tail and he'll like run around in circles or some shit. Like they'll just do like silly dog things like that now. But like it's so fascinating watching this episode, and there's just like this is like casual dog things. I don't even really gags, but you don't really think twice about it. Like when he sits on the couch with Lois and she just like starts petting his head. Like he's just like it's like, oh yeah, he's a dog. Like, you know what I mean? It's so easy to forget that.
Yeah, I love how much that like adds to his character of like, oh no, yeah, being a dog, like a walking, talking dog in this world does seem like that would be horrible. You can't really relate to anyone, you know. You just kind of like,
right,
you're just a fucking dog.
Right, and he's basically the only one, right? There's maybe a couple more. They show his cousin in one episode, right?
I think they do have a girl one later on too.
There's a girl one.
Yeah.
And but then there's Vinny,
Vinny. But yeah, I always liked in the early seasons where it was just kind of like he really had no kind of place where he belonged other than like the Griffin family.
Right. Yeah, and that's what that that last episode in season 1 is so great, because it's about that. It's about Brian being treated like a dog by Peter and feeling taken for granted. And so he leaves, and then when he goes out into the world, he finds that, oh, you're not accepted here. You're a dog. You need like your license. You're not allowed to. Yeah. That is a really cool aspect of this early stuff. Man, I do love these first 3 seasons of Family Guy are so good. I'm excited to. I've been rewatching 2, and I'm going to go on to 3. But I think I'm going to try to finally like go through the whole show. I think I've only watched up through 7.
Okay.
We'll see how far I get. It's like so much. It's just so much to watch. But while I'm working other stuff.
Spoken from experience, at a certain point your brain kind of just turns to mush and you don't even really realize you're consuming it anymore.
Yeah.
You guys, you are both the leading experts on that phenomenon.
Yeah, there was like a time where like everybody, it was like putting all of like our faces and like people that did cartoon videos on like tier lists, and I did a tier list that was just like it was like has seen every episode of Family Guy, seen most Family Guy, and it was like me and Mark at the top. And like it was a good list. A lot of people said I got accurate. Like Whitney, I put in like hasn't watched it in years.
Right.
She was like, who the fuck made this? They're so right. And I was like, oh, it's me.
That's so funny. Man, yeah.
I missed this made me realize how much I missed the therapist. But I don't think he would work with the new Brian.
No, definitely not. Yeah. But I feel like they underused the therapist. Like he appears for like 3 episodes, I think. I think he's gone after the Road to Rhode Island. I think that's his last appearance.
Oh, word. I didn't realize it was so early.
Yeah, it's surprising because I always remembered as a kid that he was like consistent throughout the first couple of seasons, but no, I think he only has like 4 appearances. But yeah, I miss that, like when these characters had kind of like, I don't know, obviously Family Guy is much more focused on like the comedy now, but I miss when these characters felt like they had lives outside of the CM3 sets.
Yeah. Or like there's like actual like stakes to like their emotions. Like you're supposed to really like
supposed to care about them.
Yes. There's definitely like clear emotional hooks in these characters and their relationships. And even just like even when like the scene where Brian gets fed up watching Peter and Lois, but that like scene where they're spraying water in each other and like they're just like clearly so in love with each other, it's really nice. It's a really sweet scene.
Yeah.
Even though there's also like waterboarding jokes in the middle of it, but it's cute. Yeah.
It's really jarring. It feels like a different show at times compared to how to handle it now. But yeah, even beyond like the like character stuff and the emotion in this episode, I think it's just really funny. Like in general, there's so many jokes here that I forgot. This is the one where Peter is like, "Oh my God, you can talk."
Yeah, I wrote that one too. I always. I thought that was. I always thought that was the ad break. I was so confused when the episode kept going after that. I thought like I always remember. I remember commercial coming after the pause. It kept going.
That joke, oh my God, the joke where he's going off and he's like kind of just enjoying the world and living his life, and he hits Dean Koontz with his car and he's like, "Are you Stephen King?" No, Dean Koontz, and he runs him back over. That's crazy because Stephen King did get hit by a car and almost died. Like that's a big part of his life. It's a crazy joke. There's a really great book he wrote. Actually, I would recommend it to you guys. It's called On Writing, and it's just a book about writing. And he wrote that book while he was writing it. He got hit by the car. So the first half of the book was before he got hit, and the second half is after. And so there's like a little bit of a tonal shift in how he's approaching the whole thing. But it's his only nonfiction book, and it's just a fascinating fact that like that was what he wrote when that thing happened to him. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Fuck me.
This one has sorry, go ahead.
This one has the classic Jetsons.
I wrote that down too.
For 45 minutes. I know that because my fucking watch is broken. That whole bit is great. I was laughing before he even spoke. Like just off him like being like fucked up when he enters the house. It's funny.
It is funny how many of those gags, like that is such a good gag, but they require like a lot of residual knowledge of television. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to know that show. Even the beginning is like the Mr. Rogers thing, him destroying the neighborhood of make-believe is so funny. But yeah, like rewatching some of this earliest stuff, and I guess that's kind of the whole show, but like so many of the TV gags and the cutaway gags are just playing on like expecting you to know the ins and outs of all these other shows. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah. I'll even say, just going off that, like there's two things. There's when Brian comes back from therapy, Peter, like Lois says the thing about how she thought like therapy was like for like crazy people. And then Peter comes in and he's like, "Oh, you okay, Brian?" Like, which is like, this is like the last pocket of time you could do something like that. Like nobody thinks like that today. I thought that was really interesting. But after that, I think they do something that like they do a lot like later in Family Guy, but I never realized that they do it this early, which is when they flash the real image of a real person on screen. They do that a lot later, but I didn't realize he says lots of crazy people have gone on to live successful lives. And then there's an image of news anchor Dan Rather, who I had to look up, and like I still don't even think I get the joke really.
Right. Yeah, it's just a dig at Dan
but I'm
Rather,
sure at the time it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was probably a knee slapper back then.
There's so many moments here that really get me. Like when they think Stewie's peeing on the rugs and Peter's like, "What do I hit him?" Like,
yeah. Oh man. I also like. I really like the way the show looked. The scene that really stood out this time was the scene where he's like desperately trying to clean up the rug at night.
That stood out to me too.
It looks
got like the
so
yellow
cool.
like room sheeting on him or lighting on him, or even the storyboarding. I feel like where I think it's one of the early shots where like Stewie's walking towards the camera and Lois is like behind him, going like, "Oh, are you like angry because you peed on the rug?" And he like stops and he like I thought that shot was really
what
cool.
did you say? Yeah. It's good. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, there's a lot of looking at like early Family Guy, even like a couple years after this, like in like 5 or 6, it's kind of cool to go like, oh wait, they would not do that now.
Right.
Like even something as simple as like an over the shoulder sometime, it's like, oh shit, they wouldn't do that now.
I noticed that when they had the cutaway to Peter wearing the big green cowboy hat, and I was like, wow, like all these characters are side. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. Yeah, I think stuff like that really helped it. Just the angles they would choose, like they're also varied, that you kind of are able to get a better sense that this is like a real space and not just like a sitcom set. Like I feel like it kind of leans into later.
It is funny how it starts to feel like it is a multicam sitcom because you'll just see the same angles, right? Like even though it's animated, you don't have to do that. But I feel like The Simpsons fell into that a little bit too.
Yeah.
I love the shot, like, and not just the lighting when Brian's trying to clean up the carpet, but then when they do the shot where you just see the light turn on and you don't see Lois, but you see the shadow of Lois, and she calls him up. Yeah, it's really good.
Even the expressions, like they play around with Brian's nose a lot early on. Where, it's like an actual like 3-dimensional shape. It's not just like flat. I really love stuff like that. The whole ending scene where he's talking to Lois, I love the expressions he makes, where like he puts his nose down, you kind of like see him like looking
Mhm.
up and stuff like
Right.
that. I thought that was all really good. And even then, like Lois, I feel like this is such a stark contrast to how Lois kind of is in the show now. Where I feel like early on they kind of did have something similar, like more similar to like a Marge type character with
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
But I really like early Lois, where she's just it's hard to describe, but the whole ending scene where she doesn't even want to like talk directly to him about what he's
Yeah.
asking. She'd rather like kind of like talk around it, but still try to like let him down easy. But it's like all in like a very like kind, like loving way. I thought all that stuff is like really, I don't know. It's easy to be like, oh, I wish the show was like that now, because it can't do that. But it's stuff that when watching the early seasons, I'm like, oh, I missed that.
Right. Yeah,
I love that final scene where Lois like kind of realizing and understanding what Brian is going through, and letting him down easy. But it is funny they still were very prone to like undercutting that immediately with him being like, just to be
he has to keep the reassure.
Yeah.
Which is that bit where she does the so, well, I have to be really, really no.
Yeah,
That's again. It's like the hard cut after that. That's good. I always like that.
Yeah, it's great. This is a really
even
good
that
episode.
ending scene between like Peter and Brian, where they used to be like kind of like Brian used to be like Peter's right hand man, and the ending shot where it's like sunset of them playing like golf together, and you see like their shadows as they're just like talking about it, and Peter doesn't realize that he's talking about his wife. He's like, oh, he's probably gonna end up with some fucking like idiot.
It's a great joke. Yeah, that's a good ending, and it did so often come back to them. Like I loved that when he was panicking about whether or not he was in love with Lois, like his whole thing was like, that's my best friend's wife. I just like him describing Peter as his best friend. Obviously it's the whole thing is like he's his dog, but like, yeah, they're best friends. And like, that is so apparent in the early Family Guy that they are like truly best friends. Yeah.
Right.
I was interested. I was just looking at this. Sorry, go ahead, Tariq. I'll say this.
I was going to say that just about like still part of Brian's character journey. I think Stewie going and pissing on the couch and then blaming it on Brian. I never realized how mean that was. That like stunts his growth. Like he really feels like he's fine. And then like Stewie pisses on everything and he's like back to square one. I never realized how much that reverted him.
No, he thinks he thinks it's even worse because he doesn't even remember it. He's like, I don't even remember doing it. So he thinks it's getting worse. He's like, it really messes with him. Yeah, Stewie's a little asshole in this episode. I was just looking at the episode list, and it's funny. I guess it looks like this was the first they produced of season 2, because they had a couple holdovers from season 1, and this is like the production code is the very first of season 2. So this is like the 14th episode they ever made.
And it's the first one to use Mila Kunis as Meg.
Oh right!
Oh really?
The other actress is in the other ones they produced for season 1 too. So she's in season 2.
She's still in the holdovers. She's in the
right.
holdovers. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I never noticed that. It's interesting.
Da Boom aired before, so that was the first one that actually had Mila Kunis in it.
That actually had Mila. Yeah.
I just rewatched that one, and that is a weird episode. I think it's so funny.
It is.
but it's so weird in that it's just like a what if scenario that has no impact on anything else. They're just like, yep, the world ended in this one, and it ends as though the world had ended. Yeah.
Well, that's like you were talking about, like how like a lot of early Family Guy is like you gotta have like you gotta almost take like a fucking TV prerequisite class beforehand.
Right.
Like that's the end of that is part of it. What do they flash back to? The live action footage? I forgot.
It's like a lady it's like a lady waking up talking to her husband in the shower, being like, I had this horrible dream and there was like a dog and a chicken, and so, like I forget what it's parroting, but yeah,
I think it's Dallas. I think it's Dallas.
It's Dallas. It's live action epilogue parody of Dallas. Right. That's so funny
because I think because Dallas had that event that Who Shot Mr. Burns is based on, with like one of the characters.
Who Shot JR, the classic.
And then she wakes up and she's like, "Fuck! I just had this dream that he got shot." and
That's how that
and they
ends.
do it in
Is that
Family
what
Guy.
that's from?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's where that's from.
What a cop out, man. I would be so mad if I were a Dallas fan.
Yeah, no. There's
Oh,
a
man.
different sitcom that I learned that did that. I was watching. There's a doc on a docu-series on Max called History of the Sitcom, and one of the things they talk about is Bob Newhart's show. He has
That's the one
it's
I
him and
always
his
knew.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like him and his wife in the show, whatever. And then the show ends, and then years later, Bob Newhart did another show just called Newhart with him and a different wife, different character or whatever. And then that show ends where he wakes up in bed next to the original wife from the first show. And he's
Yeah.
like, man, I just had the weirdest fucking dream.
Yep. They
It
That's
reminds
rough.
me of the I think it's like the SNL Breaking Bad thing where they have fucking Bryan Cranston wake up next to his wife and Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like recounting the events of Breaking Bad.
I like
That's
that.
so
That's
funny,
good.
man. Yeah, that's basically exactly parroting that. But man, what I feel like I would be so mad if I were invested in a show and the final gag was them being like, actually, this was a dream of a show that we liked better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I would not be stoked.
What's
on
the
that.
show where the finale reveals that it was like all in the mind of like an autistic child?
Oh,
What am I talking
Saint
about?
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Saint
Oh, is
Elsewhere.
that how St. Elsewhere ends? Holy shit.
And yeah, and it like all takes place in like a snow globe that the kid
Whoa.
owns. It's like it's in his mind. It's like it's the snow globe. And then there's like
Get
a
the
big
fuck outta here.
unifying TV theory where people are like everything connects to Saint Elsewhere somehow. It's like the Pixar theory of television or whatever.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. Yeah, TV is wild, man. You know what, another weird show that did something like that was, which I think fully undercuts the show itself, is I don't know if either of you are I know you're not, Tariq, but Star Trek. So there's so many Star Trek shows. There was a show called Star Trek Enterprise, and the last episode, the very last episode of that show, the finale, they make it take place in the holodeck of a ship from a different Star Trek show. So it's like of Star Trek The Next Generation, the one with Jean-Luc Picard with like Patrick Stewart, like the final episode is a character from that show experiencing the events of their final mission of the show that we were watching. It's bizarre. It's like a really weird choice. So they
That's
bring in
wild
this like
as fuck.
fan favorite character, which totally like overshadows this being a finale of a different
Right.
show. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Weird. What makes
That's
you
rough.
make decisions?
It's kind of cool though. It's kind of cool reminiscing about it, I guess. Like stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah,
just would
yeah.
not happen nowadays.
Right.
Would not
Yeah.
totally.
You can't do any of the last time I know something like this happened, and it's not really the exact same thing. It's just kind of like a retcon. But at the end of Roseanne, you find out that like John Goodman died, and she wrote the book, and like the
That's
last
right.
season was like what
Yes.
she wished her life would have been like
The-
if John Goodman hadn't died.
It's actually insane. The whole last season 7
Yeah,
of Roseanne,
the whole
is
last
they
season.
win the lottery and they're rich, and that's the whole season. And then the last episode is that reveal that he actually died,
Right.
which they then retcon when they bring the show back.
In the Connor, when they brought back Roseanne,
Yeah.
she like he like wakes up in bed and she's like, "Oh fuck, I thought you were dead." It's like the dumbest shit ever.
and then they kill her.
And then Roseanne dies.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because-
yeah.
I've only ever heard of the show. I've never seen it, but I'm realizing while we were just scrolling through TikTok one night on the TV, a random clip from the Roseanne reboot came out, and we watched it for like 20 minutes. It was like a really long clip, and I was like, "This is just miserable. What is this? Like, I don't know. This does not feel like a real show. It's like them arguing the whole time, really
It's-
seriously." And I was like, "This is depressing."
It was a really popular show, and then they did this revival season, and it was
And it went
shockingly
crazy.
popular. It was
It went
shockingly
crazy, yeah.
popular. Like it had crazy ratings, and then
Mhm.
Roseanne tweeted a bunch of racist stuff and blamed it on taking
Oh.
Ambien, and so
Word.
they only did one season of Roseanne, and then they revived it again as a show called The Connors. So it's the rest of the family in this new show called The Connors. And in the first episode, they reveal that Roseanne died of a drug overdose. And that is how they wrote Roseanne out of the show. And The
Yeah.
Connors has run for like 4 years now. It's
I'm
very
about to say
popular.
it's still on. It's still
Yeah.
on too.
Is that what the South Park episode is parodying? The Mr. Hanky one?
Yes.
From like
yes,
season
that's
22.
exact.
I
that is
never knew what
exactly
that was
it's-
referencing.
That is exactly what it's parodying. Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh man. Yeah, man. Speaking of South Park, I know you mentioned when we were talking about episodes that an episode you wanted to talk about for South Park is Cash for Gold, and Tariq was
Yeah.
really excited to talk about
I
that.
did
So
want to.
we'll have to have you back on to talk South Park, because I would love to. Yeah, I would love to talk South Park with you too. And that is such a good episode. That's that'll be a good one to discuss.
Yeah,
For
sure.
All right. After that tangent, any other thoughts on Family Guy,
Right,
Simpsons, anything else we want to touch on before we wrap this up?
Oh, yeah, I did write down whatever Lois made for dinner. That has to be dog shit. It has that shit has noodles with potato chips as crust and M&Ms. Whatever that is, that shit is disgusting.
I never like paid attention to what she was saying before in that scene, but she's like, "Yeah, I ran out of paprika, so I used M&Ms." I'm like, what's the correlation there?
Stupid.
I guess so, like they're just trying to highlight how Brian is like sucking up to her in what couldn't possibly be a good dinner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Great, man. This was really fun. This was a really great episode, Mark. I'm really glad you came on.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything you want to plug or talk about? I know you do the podcast with your wife and Meeting Halfway, and you guys just started that back up again, right?
Yeah, we took a break for we thought we were moving, so I was like, "Oh, we'll move everything and make a new set," but that's been like delayed by a couple months. So we're back to weekly episodes on Meeting Halfway on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I think it's on. I don't know. I don't handle it.
All the podcast places. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Great. Well, we appreciate you having you on. We appreciate having you on. We appreciate you having you on. Let's do it again. And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we end this now. We don't like we previously we just like finished talking about our shows and we're like, all right, how did I end these, Tariq? How do I do this?
We used to rank. There's only 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, we don't rank
the
anymore.
2 episodes.
We don't rank.
And then you thank Carrie. You thank
That's
Jake.
right. We thank everyone. Tariq, do you have any plugs? You got anything you want to plug? Even though this probably won't come out for a couple months since we're recording it.
Yeah, I mean, this won't come out for a while, but I'll probably still be doing Mugen Monday. Me and the homies, we play Mugen on Monday to raise funds for my pilot.
For the pilot.
Yeah. Mondays at 8 p.m. EST. That's pretty much what I got right now.
Cool. I'm probably still making videos. Hopefully.
Yeah,
go look at those. If I'm not, something has gone wrong. All right. How do I do this? What's my spiel for the end? He goes, I know I got it. I remember. Sorry, it's been a while. And with that, I want to thank Carrie Feek for our artwork. I want to thank Jake Neutron for our theme song. I want to thank Michael Yunez for producing and editing the podcast. I want to thank Tariq for co-hosting every week with me. I want to thank Mark for coming on for this episode. And we want to thank all of you for listening and letting us do this and share our love of cartoons with you. You guys are great. We love you. And with that, also, though, thank you very much. Goodbye.